So apparently cancelling The Hunt for Ben Solo was political. Imagine that. Apparently it was political reasons as to this movie being scuppered. All sort of internal politics. The sort of corporate politicking that goes on. If we can crush this film, we can scupper one man's sort of rising up through the ranks, as it were. Basically, that's kind of the reason, allegedly. Worth taking a look at, though, because again, we've heard now that this is the only movie that was fully greenlit, ready to go, Lucasfilm approved, had a start date, everything. The only movie that Disney has ever cancelled in that state, which I argued, and I'll say it again, is very, very revealing, actually, by the sheer amount of movies that Star Wars Lucasfilm announces, that just never get made. It's like, right, okay, so they keep announcing films that are never ready to go and were never approved by Disney, which is quite shocking, to be honest. But that's all by the by. I'll leave this article down below. But let's dive with me on this. Let's have a look, shall we? So there's a whole bunch of behind-the-scenes claims about the hunt for Ben Solo. They're all circulating. They make the galaxy far, far away sound more like an episode of Succession than Star Wars, which is true. That is kind of what it sounded like. So according to the playlist, Steven Soderbergh's long-rumoured Star Wars film starring Adam Driver, The Hunt for Ben Solo, wasn't cancelled for creative reasons at all. Because that was the other thing that they gave. Their other reason was they just don't understand how he could survive. And I argued that they're incredibly dumb if they can't understand how he survived. Like, he died in a movie where someone came back to life. So how would you not understand how he could come back to life? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Well, apparently that's not the reason now. So, yeah, it was all for internal politics. So the report alleges that the decision to kill the project coincided with Disney's internal CEO succession battle. That's the brunt of it, right? So earlier this month, Adam Driver confirmed that he and Soderbergh had been deep into development on a Star Wars sequel titled The Hunt for Ben Solo, set after The Rise of Skywalker. Sorry. The film reportedly had... That's my Emperor impression. The film reportedly had a completed screenplay by Scott Zibberns! And internal greenlighting from Lucasfilm, with both Kathleen Kennedy and Dave Filoni supporting it. Again, the only film in that state that has ever been cancelled. The project aimed to explore Ben Solo's fate after the events of Rise of Skywalker, a creative gamble that could have reignited the sequel-era timeline and possibly even reshaped Lucasfilm's approach to legacy characters. And then Disney just pulled the plug. So the official explanation, according to multiple outlets, was Bob Iger and Alan Bergman didn't see how Ben could have survived the end of the Rise of Skywalker. Now that reasoning already doesn't make any sense, because Palpatine returned from the dead. Darth Maul has returned from the dead. Doesn't make any sense. So the playlist is now reporting complete politics, basically, internal politics. So citing anonymous sources close to the production, the playlist claims Lucasfilm executives were blindsided by Disney's abrupt rejection of the film. They reportedly found the story's logic clear and creatively sound, and were confident that the film could move forward. Several people close to the production interpret the decision as politically motivated, coinciding with Iger's efforts to position Bergman as his successor at Disney. So if that sounds strange, it's because it is strange. Alan Bergman has never been a serious contender for the top job at Disney. You know, he's respected internally for his financial acumen and long tenure within the company. Bergman's career has always been that of a steady operations man, a behind-the-scenes executive focused on balance sheets, not boardroom politics. He was never positioned publicly or privately as Iger's heir. So the real competition to replace Bob Iger has always centered on two figures: Parks chairman Josh D'Amaro and Disney Entertainment co-chair Dana Walden. D'Amaro, the face of Disney Parks and Resorts, has been a visible leader throughout Iger's second tenure, touting guest experience initiatives, defending price increases, and spearheading massive expansion plans. He represents the operations first side of Disney's future. This is Dana Walden. So Walden, meanwhile, long held the advantage as Iger's personal favourite and the frontrunner for the CEO role. Her extensive experience in television and streaming, along with her deep ties to Hollywood talent, made her an attractive candidate for the entertainment-driven vision Iger prefers. But Walden's political connections became a double-edged sword following the 2024 election, apparently. As a well-known ally and friend of the wine mom that is Kamala Harris, her perceived alignment with the previous administration reportedly made her a more complicated choice after President Trump's return to the White House, which I can believe. That makes sense. So even so, Walden remains far more likely to succeed Iger than Bergman ever was. Bergman's name rarely, if ever, appears in credible succession shortlists from major outlets like Bloomberg, Variety, or the Wall Street Journal. To claim that The Hunt for Ben Solo was cancelled as part of a grand political manoeuvre to protect Bergman's standing is a bit of a stretch. None of this makes any sense. The playlist theory tries to connect dots that don't line up. Who knows, man? Bergman may have been involved in discussions about the film, but he's hardly the figure whose career trajectory would hinge on that Star Wars movie. Doesn't make any sense. If anything, the narrative says more about Hollywood's fascination with intrigue than about what's actually happening inside Disney's succession race. So the playlist adds another fascinating potential wrinkle. Writer Scott Zibuns was allegedly paid more than any screenwriter in Lucasfilm's history to finish the script. Reportedly a low but substantial 7-figure sum. Steven Soderbergh and Adam Driver were never compensated for their time developing the project. That's weird. That alone would be odd for a Lucasfilm production, which typically offers upfront compensation, even for cancelled projects. It's all a bit weird, isn't it? If true, it paints a picture of a studio that poured significant resources into a film it later abandoned, and it raises obvious questions about how and why the plug was pulled. It doesn't really make any sense. None of this makes any sense. None of it makes any sense anyway. Why cancel a film that's been approved, that you understand, that you can't not understand because of narrative reasons? This is so bizarre. The whole thing is so weird. This is people at Disney trying to save their skins, I think. It's very, very odd. Very, very odd. I would imagine too much money. I would imagine this comes at the time where Kathleen Kennedy just kept greenlighting things. Right? And Disney just vetoed it because they didn't want to make anything Star Wars. Because why would you? What a shit show. There you go. Just thought it was interesting. Another development. Is it political or not? Who knows? Complete shit show is what it is. Leave your thoughts down below. Bye-bye now.